My life is crumbling.
Things are not perfect.
You just have to go really hard.
That's a foxhole moment, I guess.
So we want to dive deep into the trenches.
I don't want to be normal. I don't want to be like this.
Everything's sacrificed when you're trying to build a business.
Yeah, I want that.
We'll see how deep in the foxhole we get.
Welcome back to In the Foxhole. I'm your host, JC Chanowsky.
And I'm Angela Schroeder.
Angela, good to be back. Happy to be here.
And super excited for our guest today.
And as big fitness buffs, at the gym every single day at 5 o'clock religiously, I'm excited to have my, what do I want to call you? Fitness coach, if you will, motivator in life, you and Matt out there every day. Sean, welcome to In the Foxhole.
Thanks for having me here. Yeah, just don't call me a fitness trainer, right? I'll have like some people and they introduce me like, this is my trainer. I'm like, I'm not a fucking fitness trainer. But anyway, thanks for having me, you two. I think it's so awesome.
What did you call him?
No, he said fitness coach. He said he did it good, right?
Okay.
Like, that's fine. And he threw in the word motivator, but I used to be a fitness trainer. Like 5 years ago, I started in a gym for about 6 to 8 months doing fitness coaching in person. But I just knew I had a bigger vision of where I wanted to go in my life. And I never wanted to just be like an accountability coach in the gym. Like I call personal trainers babysitters, right? Because I wanted to be able to reach more people and motivate and inspire people to do it on their own and to find the mindset and like the willpower within to go out and achieve their dreams and goals. So there's a big distinction there, but we're just talking about semantics. Anyway, I'm grateful to be here. You two are awesome. And let's rock this show.
Well, I love it, Sean. Sean, I was following you on social media for a while. I've got to know a lot about you and your business. For the viewers that don't know, why don't you just quickly tell them a little about Sean?
Yeah, so my name's Sean Crane. You can find me on Facebook, Sean Michael Crane, or Instagram. Family man. I have 3 children, beautiful wife. She's my best friend in the world. We live in Santa Barbara, California, which is like one of the best places in the world to live, honestly. I've been to Maui and some other badass spots, but like Santa Barbara is amazing. So if you haven't visited it, check it out. It's summer year round. It's incredible. I'm the founder of Unstoppable 365, which is becoming the #1 personal development program for men and women in the trades. So if you want to get your mindset dialed in, your habits, your fitness, your nutrition, we do it all. We have an amazing team and we're connected to all the trades. Like that just happened organically. I never intended for that to take place, but we can get into how that manifested. I'm a speaker, business owner, coach. And honestly, like right now, this is the life I prayed for. And we'll get into where I was making those prayers and like how this vision started. But it's the most incredible thing. Every day I get goosebumps talking about it. Like this is the life I prayed for and envisioned for years and years and years. And so when people ask me like how I'm doing, I'm like, fuck, I'm great. I'm phenomenal. And I just want to keep this energy going and keep proving to people what's possible when you're willing to show up every day, be honest, accountable, and keep growing. And there's no like guarantee or promise we're going to get to where we want to go in life, but the journey is so fucking exciting when you go all in and you get off the sidelines and in the game, right? So that's what I'm doing. I mean, I got 9 speaking engagements to close out the year. Family's really good and healthy. My wife's pregnant. Spoiler alert. You said you're going to ask me about a win. I'm getting right into it. My wife's pregnant. Our last child,
Congrats.
our baby girl,
Yes.
another girl. I'm like, damn, right? My 5-year-old's a handful. Scarlett Jean Crane, like she's a handful. But I'm so excited. Like my wife just went through the most intense first trimester ever. She couldn't eat for over a month. She lived off insurers. She was having the worst morning sickness and symptoms. We're going back and forth to the doctor. And like the biggest win for me, we talk about pressure and being in the foxhole, like juggling, raising children, and then running a business and having hundreds of clients and dozens of team members. Like I didn't skip a beat, I was making the lunches and the snacks at home, doing drop-offs with the kids at school, working from home more, spending more time at home, doing the chores at home, helping. And because my wife was kind of bedridden, and then being there for her. And I didn't let it phase me. I didn't get emotional or irritable or negative. I didn't miss out in business endeavors. So that was like the biggest win for me and really a huge level up in my life right now. Cause I always wanted to be the guy that could just pull it all off, and I think a lot of guys, they have this misconception, like it's either business and money or the family, and they can never put the two together. They always feel like they're missing someone or their health and fitness. Right. So I got to be the example to the guys I coach and lead. Like, look, this is how you can put all the pieces together. This is how you can crush it across the board. So yeah, that's like a little bit about what's been going on in my life recently.
That's a lot, man. I'm
Yeah.
proud of you and congrats on the baby. I've seen the post too. I think it was the lunchbox or something post you made about the kids, and I commented because I wanted one of those things too. But you talked about being able to show up, and you're showing up for your team, you're showing up for your family, you're showing up for the community, you're showing up for your clients, and you're doing it every single day. I see you out there doing the post, and it's not easy. It can be hard and overwhelming, but you continuously do it, and you're like inspiring. And you inspired me to be better. You inspired me to join your program, and I've seen multiple people within my network join lately, and I love seeing it because it's so easy to let health go by to the side as you're trying to grow a business, when it should be the priority. And I love it. I love it what you're doing for the community.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right too. And when you were saying that, I was thinking like most people let their health decline because they don't value it. Typically, like we don't change things until there's some pain there, and we're forced to
Mhm.
change. Like this goes back to my story. When I was a kid, I had big dreams to be a great person in life. Like I wanted to be a pro athlete. I wanted to play Major League Baseball, and I had a lot of talent and ability. And then my home life though was just falling apart. Like my parents were addicted to drugs and alcohol, and they were fighting. There was bad things happening. I saw my mother overdose 3 times by the time I was 12 years old, like dead on the floor, man. And that type of shit scars you as a kid. And then things progressively got worse. And my first month in high school, like trying to figure out who I am as a young person. It's such a difficult time for kids that age. Like you're not a boy, you're not a man. You're trying to figure out your own identity and who you are. And at that time, my dad got arrested. He had a standoff with the police. He had a gun right in front of us, and I thought my dad was going to get killed right in front of us. But they arrested him and took him to jail. He ended up going to prison. And then my mom, she just started falling back into her drug habit even worse. Got a boyfriend and stopped coming home. And she
Mm.
basically abandoned us. And that was the most heartbreaking thing. It's hard to see my dad go to prison. I missed him, but then your mom leaving you, it was heartbreaking for me. So at that time, man, I just went into this really dark place in my life where I didn't know how to cope or deal with that pain, and I numbed myself with drugs and alcohol. I stopped hanging out with all my friends. I stopped playing sports. I stopped going to family functions. I didn't want to be around anyone that would remind me of what was happening in my life.
Mhm.
And so, like, that whole time I wanted to change. I wanted to be a good person. I think a lot of people out there, they want to be their best selves. They want to be the person in their heart that they're being called to become. But it's hard as fuck for people to change. Like, excuse my language, it really is. Sometimes there has to be some life altering event or something that intervenes to like really wake us up. And for some guys, it's going to the doctor and finding out that you're going to have a heart attack and die, or
Mm.
something in the business where you have to make a move, you're going to go bankrupt, or your wife's going to leave you. So now you go to counseling, you'll quit drinking, you'll spend more time, you'll do anything to keep her, right? Like, why can't we change before that pain? So that's human beings though. We don't change typically until there's this pain threshold met. And for me, my pain threshold was met when I was facing life in prison. So fast forward from 14 to 23, I wasted my life. I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. I didn't do anything positive with my life for 10 years. And all the while, I knew I wanted to be a better version of myself, but I just felt stuck. And all those inner fears and the what ifs and the doubts and the trauma, it was just all suppressing my potential. And then, I went to a party, and you guys might be, you might have experienced this where you go to a party when you're younger, maybe a high school or college party, and there's some dumb drunk guys there that start fighting, right? That usually happens at every party. Well, I was watching the dumb drunk guys fighting, and I was one of the drunk guys, like right there. I wasn't in the fight, but I was really close to the fight. And it turned into this huge brawl in a backyard. And I got tackled from the side by some big guy like JC, right? Like this huge guy tackled me. And I thought they were jumping me. I'm like, damn, dude, they like thought I was in the fight. And I'm wrestling with this guy and nothing's happening. I'm not getting kicked. I'm not getting jumped, but I'm not able to get up from underneath this guy. And as soon as I finally do, after I like roll him off me the third attempt, I threw 2 punches at him as I was standing up because I thought that they were going to beat me up. And he just stayed face down in the ground. And this is like split second stuff, but it was slow motion. It was something out of a movie. And I'm like, what the heck? This guy's face down in the ground. He's not moving. Like, why? It didn't register. And then I walk over to my friend who's yelling at me in the street, and I get under the street lamp and I'm covered head to toe in blood. Like someone poured a bucket of blood all over me. Like my face, my arms, my chest. And this is all stuff that you would see in a movie and have nightmares about. Like, that's the only way I could describe it. It didn't seem like reality. And his eyes lit up. He's like, "What the hell did you do? What happened over there?" And he just runs up the street. And so I follow him and everyone's running. And we went back to his place that night. And I knew something really bad had happened. And we passed out though. We were so drunk and high on drugs and pills. We were completely altered. And in the morning I woke up and I Googled fight on the Mesa in Santa Barbara, and it said 2 men had been stabbed and one's in critical condition, and they're looking for the suspects. And in that moment, I knew my whole life was going to change. And this is how naive I was. And maybe it's not naive, but this is what I thought. I thought they were going to come and look for me and try to get me to tell on who did it. I thought they were going to press me for information, and they wanted me to tell them who did it and give them information. But when they came with the SWAT team, the forensic unit. They had AR-15s pointed at my head and put me on the ground, and they arrested me. And I didn't know what I was being charged with all the way until they took me to the police station and they said, "We're booking you in for attempted murder." And so that's when my whole life changed. And I couldn't believe it. It was still surreal. And I thought, surely some information is going to come out. They're going to clear my name. But the first day I went to court, it was crazy. Like, there was people in there taking my picture. The whole courtroom was packed. And, I got up to see my lawyer, and she turned around. She's like, "Hey, the judge and the district attorney, they want to amend your charges to homicide today. The victim's been in a coma for the last week. They think he's brain dead. He's not going to make it." And that was like the first thing I heard from my lawyer. And I was so numb at that point. I didn't even think I didn't know what to feel or expect. I was just terrified and in shock. But he survived miraculously. That man survived. And for the next 8 months, I fought my case, and I ended up being sentenced to 5.5 years in prison, 7 years, which I did five and a half on. But let me tell you this. In that moment, when I thought my life was over, those 8 months I was sitting in my cell, I would have done anything. I mean, anything to make it right. Like, in that moment, there was no option to not do the right thing or to not want to make this situation right. Like, very quickly, my whole train of thought, my whole brain was rewired. Once I got over the shock and being a victim and poor me and this and that, I very quickly accepted the past. I made peace with my parents. I love you guys. Like, I don't wish you any will. I'm not angry anymore. And I just wanted a second chance at life. Like, imagine if you lose the love of your life, how badly you just would want her back, or you lose a child, or all these horrific things that happen. Well, I was losing my life, and all the stuff that people procrastinate on and make excuses about, and all the time that we waste. I was like, man, I knew who I wanted to be. Like, how could I live my life any other way? Why didn't I go all in on this person inside that God told me I should have been? And in that moment, I just chose I was going to fight. And no matter how much time I was going to spend in prison or what happened, I had to live out the rest of my life as that person. I couldn't go back. I couldn't do that to myself ever again. So I made a promise to be my best true self every second, every moment from that instant forward. And that the second promise, I would be sober for the rest of my life, because I knew sobriety for me was key. And like, people died in my life growing up, friends and family, and I was ruining my life through drugs and alcohol. And that was the beginning of my transformation. And it's this simple, but it's this difficult. Like, if you can get to a place where you're very clear on who that person is in your heart that you want to be, down to the minute detail, and you can dedicate the rest of your life to walking that path, all your goals, all your success, all the most amazing things will transpire in your life. It's that simple. It's more complex than that, but that's what it came down to for me. And then fast forward from that moment, 12 years, here I am today. And like, I'm living proof of that.
Ah, such an incredible story. And it's the first time that I've heard it.
And that was the quick
Just
version,
hearing. And I know you're going to tell more about how more it transpired. I mean, I want to hear more of those years and your journey to where you are now. But you can just hear the conviction in your voice of, like, it was a decision. Like, all of a sudden you woke up and thought, what have I been doing? I lost all those years. I knew what I wanted to be, and life happened for you. It was very extreme, right? Like, lots of drugs and alcohol, not on the right path, very much extreme. But for a lot of people, the wake up call comes after something that isn't as extreme, but they're still just living their life on autopilot. It might not be under the influence and like you were, but still not living their best selves. And there is something about, yes, I just want to be my best self. And I love how you wrapped it up at the end of like, that's what it's all about. If you are all in on being the best version of yourself and your yeses are planned for that, and you are investing in yourself first in health, in your fitness and nutrition and all the things, mental health, if you take care of yourself first, like you said, everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part for people as they get busier to remember. Like when you have kids and you're running the business and you got all these millions of things to do every day, it feels impossible. But for me, my routines, they're my salvation. They give me
Mhm.
clarity and inner peace, and I can make decisions more decisively. I'm just so much better. My energy's better. I'm more positive. I'm happier. I have more endurance and stamina throughout the day. Like across the board, I feel way better. And the reason for me, it's so easy to understand this because I developed these routines in such a bad place. Like when I was waking up in my jail cell initially, I was in a 6 by 8 cell. Like I could literally touch the walls. My length of my arms is longer than 6 feet. So can you imagine this big of a cell and by 8 feet, and there's a bunk bed in there? You're living with another person and a toilet. And that's where I lived for 24 hours a day for that 8 months that I was fighting my case. And sometimes they'd let us out to the yard, and the yard was just a bigger box, a cement box. And in there, you have no choice but to either persevere or you're going to suffer immensely. And that's why people lose their minds in isolation, or they kill themselves because it's really life or death. And so for those first couple weeks I was waking up, I was coming off all the drugs and alcohol, and I was being tormented. I was in such agony. And once the drugs and alcohol started wearing out of my system, I started feeling the ramifications of what I was facing. It's like, oh my God, life in prison. Like, no way are they really trying to send me to prison for decades of my life? And I'm going back and forth to court and visitation with family members. There's no good news. It's getting worse every time. There's like a new person that came forward and, oh, they could have helped you, but they didn't want to cooperate. Or, oh yeah, someone came forward and said that they saw you striking down at the individual. The cops think striking was you stabbing him. Or like, oh, they found your bloody shirt. Yeah, like now they have DNA evidence. It just looks so bad on paper and nobody believes me. And so I remember I was waking up every day thinking, this is going to be the end of my life. I'm going to spend my whole life in prison. And like all these negative thoughts were just compounding over and over and over. And I remember this, like one day I just realized, man, the fight that I have to win right now is the fight in here. It's not even in the courtroom. It's not even in the future. Like I might not even make it to that part of my life. I got to figure out a way to change my thoughts and do something about this situation. And it was literally like the thought, what if, Sean, this experience could somehow, some way benefit you? What if you would have died out there using drugs and alcohol like your friends and family, and this is actually going to help you get sober and save your life? Or what if this is going to give you an opportunity to get away from your toxic relationships and that environment you grew up in and discover who you are as a person? And in that moment, I just came to believe, like, what if God is doing something in my life to intervene and I can't see it right now, but this is going to be a blessing in disguise. And I get like emotional right now and like this energy through my body when I say that, because I remember the moment it happened and it shifted my whole perspective on life. And this is something I teach to this day. I speak about on stage and I apply to my life every day. I never lose any situation in my life. I'm never a loser. I'm either winning and getting what I intended to achieve, or I'm going to learn and grow through those circumstances. And if you can apply this concept in your life, you're always going to move forward. You're not going to make things worse, because when people are put in bad situations, they typically make it worse. They sabotage themselves. They go drink. They say, "Oh, fuck the gym. I'm going to eat this food." And this happens in small little ways day to day, and then bigger life circumstances, right? But if you could look at situations and go, man, maybe somehow, some way, this is going to be a blessing for me. Maybe, down the road, I'll look back and this will be a learning lesson or a good thing, right? 9 times out of 10, we look back on bad situations and we're like, hindsight's 2020. I learned something from that. Oh, that helped me pivot. Look what I'm doing now. Oh, she left me, but now I'm with the woman of my dreams. Whatever. Like there's so many situations where we can apply that thinking. So that's when I learned it. And what happened is then that gave me just like a little bit of hope. And each day I started taking that hope and channeling it into positive action. So I'd wake up in the morning and I'm in this dungeon and I would just close my eyes and pray and meditate. And I would pray to God for strength and guidance. And then I'd think about all the family members who were out there doing well, certain memories and things that brought me joy. And I started creating this gratitude perspective. And I just started like channeling that energy to my family and to my future and to those moments. And once I felt ready, I'd like get up off my rack and I'd do a workout. And I'd work out as if my life depended on it. And this is when I discovered the power of exercise. I would be negative, depressed, and just battling internally. And I would do burpees until I was pouring sweat, out of breath, and exhausted. And I'm talking about hundreds of push-ups, thousands of push-ups. And by the time I finished, I was happy and I felt inner peace. And I had these endorphins going. And I'm like, damn, this feels amazing right now. I can't believe I feel this way in this cell. This shouldn't be possible. And then that would give me momentum throughout the day. So I started reading and writing any books I could get my hands on. I started reading. I started writing letters back home. And that's when I came upon a challenge, though. I realized my penmanship was horrible. I didn't know how to spell. I had not been book smart. I didn't even go to high school, really, And remember the promise I made. I'm going to be my best self for the rest of my life. It was every little thing that I did reflected on who I am. So I said, you know what? I'm not okay with the way these letters look. I'm not okay with misspelling words or not understanding how to use certain words. And I had this little pocket dictionary. So every day when I was writing letters or reading books, I started looking up words in that dictionary and I started keeping a vocab list, like literally like I'm in sixth grade, a big list of words that I wanted to learn the definition of, the type of speech. And I started memorizing these words and then I would use them in my letters back home. And my dad, I remember he wrote me, he's like, what are you doing? Is someone writing your letters for you? Like your penmanship changed? You're using all these big words. And I didn't care. I would use those words when I was talking on the phone or to my cellmate. And very quickly, I felt my mind and my intellect and my memory and speed of thought change and expand. And from that moment forward, I was like, okay, I am smart. I'm not street smart or good in social settings. Like I'm actually intelligent. I can change parts of myself with application. And so like from that moment forward, I was an athlete in jail. I was a visionary, always thinking about the future. I became a spiritual man and I was a scholar. I ended up going to college in prison through a correspondence program, and I got 4 associate's degrees while I was in prison on psychology, human behavior sciences, business. These are associate's degrees. They're not like, master's degrees, but every day in prison, I had a purpose. And that's when I created like the ultimate blueprint of who I want to be. It's the same thing out here. It's gratitude in the morning and connecting with God's message for me that day, channeling that into motion through action, working out, sharing messages on social media. I read and write every day. And it's like that same blueprint where I can continuously evolve. So it was just crazy. Like those routines gave me something to look forward to every day, even though I was in jail. And it got me through that 5.5 years. But I didn't just endure that time. Like I thrived, and every day I got stronger and better. And that's when guys in there started noticing that I was different. And that's when guys started asking me to work out with them and teach them how to, what I was doing. They wanted the discipline and the positive attitude that I had. They wanted to know what books I was reading. And that's when I started mentoring guys in prison. And literally that moment, I remember seeing guys change. They would start talking differently. They had confidence. They started talking about their future as if they had something to look forward to. A lot of guys in there don't believe in themselves. And I thought, wow, if I could help these guys in here to change, I could help a lot of people. And this is what I want to do with my life. I want to coach and mentor and be of service. And that's when I really knew that like that was my greater calling in life.
I'm glad you brought that up about in prison, how they were, wanting to learn more, because I was worried or wondering how they perceived you. Like, what's this guy doing? Like, we're in prison, we're supposed to be doing this or this, and he's over here getting associate degrees left and right. But that's incredible that that's kind of like the catalyst for you getting out and starting Unstoppable.
Yeah. And honestly, like I always tell people when they're unsure of what to do, initially, your purpose in life is to become your best self. I feel like we all have intuition about who that person is. And if you don't, it's because you're using some substance. So, 2 things: you're either numb with substance, like I was, and this is TV, food, porn, drugs, and alcohol. It numbs you and it severs that connection to that intuition, or you have suppressed trauma. When you have suppressed trauma, it like pushes down that intuition. It like suppresses it. You got to deal with that stuff. Once I dealt with the trauma from the past and forgave my parents, it was like this huge void inside of me was opened up. And all of a sudden, this creativity and these ideas and my whole future started to kind of unfold in my vision. Like I started to be able to connect to it more. I wasn't afflicted from the past, so I could look forward to the future. But for anyone listening, if you don't know what you want to do and you're struggling, your purpose in life is literally to become your best self. In everything that you do, it takes time, but if you start that path now, over time, new people come into your life, new opportunities surface, and you'll get new ideas and that clarity like I got. And all of a sudden, you're like, damn, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then you got to have the courage to go for it though. And so like JC, that's what I did. When I got out, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to speak on stage. I knew I wanted to write a book. I knew I wanted to be a coach and help people. And I knew I wanted to have a family. And I got out and I had $200 to my name and I was living in a trailer on my aunt and uncle's property. And I was like, fuck, man, like in jail, I'd spend so much time envisioning these things and I was so excited. And like I'd have these meditations and these moments where it felt so vivid and it felt like 100% I was going to be able to do it. I had no doubt. And then I got out and I met reality, you know, and it was like, wow, I'm in this fast paced world. You got to make money. You got to take care of yourself. There's all these responsibilities. Like now I got to do it. And after about a month living in that trailer, and I was working with my uncle at his tree service business, the same thing I was doing before prison, and I was miserable. I'm like, dude, what am I doing? Like, this is not the life I want to live. And most people, they wait like years to make changes, right? I couldn't even wait weeks or months. I was like, God, I got to do something. So I remember I started going through my contacts. I had my old phone and I found this guy's name. It was TJ Fortuna. He was a friend from high school and he did personal training. And I just called him up and I'm like, hey man, I'm back out. I want to help people. I want to like do fitness coaching or something. I just wanted to call you and see what you're doing. And he goes, man, that's crazy. You called me right now. Like I'm actually expanding my business. I have a lot of clients. I'm looking for a personal trainer to work below me. And he's like, are you certified? Like, do you know what you're doing? I said, I'm not certified, but I spent the whole time in prison working out. I read everything you can imagine on exercise science, anatomy, nutrition. I know all this stuff. I can help people. And he's like, well, if you go get certified, I'll bring you down to the gym to meet the owner and we'll start training some clients. I'll give you some clients, man. And so I did. I got certified in like 2 weeks. I just took all the tests. I did all the essays. I did the final exam. And I got certified. And then right before I was set to go back to Santa Barbara, because I was like a town south, like an hour south with my family, these wildfires broke out. And so we have wildfires here usually every summer and they burn in the mountains and usually that's it. But these fires just burned everything. And then randomly, like 3 weeks later, after the fires finally went out, these rainstorms came through and there was no chaparral or you know, there was nothing on the hills. It all burned down. So it caused mudslides. And these mudslides shut down the US 101 freeway. It actually killed people in Montecito, California, like a really wealthy area. These big, beautiful homes were just decimated in the mudslides and people were trapped in there. It was this really horrific thing. And so here I am stuck in this little town. Everything around us burned down. I mean, actually, during that time, my uncle's home almost burned down. We had to evacuate. We were displaced. So it was a really crazy time. And I'm just sitting here going, dang, God, like, I thought prison was the hard part. What's going on here? You know, like, it just felt like everything was working against me. And dude, I don't know how this happened, right? But I went back through my phone again and I called my buddy Nick Carver. And he flew a little single engine Cessna. He did sunset tours for people in Santa Barbara. Right when I got out of prison, he took me up. It was like my welcome home. He took me in the airplane and flew me around. Dude, I called him up. I'm like, hey man, what's going on with these mudslides? Like, I'm stuck down here, the US 101 North. It's, you know, inaccessible. I'm supposed to get to Santa Barbara to work out of this gym, but I can't make it there. He's like, dude, that's crazy. You called me. I've been flying people back and forth from Santa Barbara to Ventura County. All these people work at the hotels and these executives in Santa Barbara. I'm shuttling them back and forth. I'm like, well, can I get a ride? Can I jump in your plane? Like, I need to get to Santa Barbara. And he's like, man, I got a spot for you. If you meet me on Monday morning at 7 a.m., you can go back to Santa Barbara with me. So I packed all my stuff up. I had like a duffel bag of books and clothes. That was all I had to my name. And I had like probably $700-800, maybe $1,000 I had saved up working. And I just went for it. I told my aunt and uncle, I'm gone. I got to go pursue this vision. And on the way into Santa Barbara, Nick looks over at me and goes, so where am I taking you when we get into town? Like, where are you staying? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm just going to the gym. He's like, wait, you have nowhere to stay? Like, do you have a car? What are you going to do? I'm like, Nick, I don't know. I'm just going to go get this job and we'll figure it out. And he's like, well, my dad rents out rooms in Santa Barbara to college kids. They're all gone right now. Maybe he has a room available for you. So like all these things are coming together, you know, we land in Santa Barbara and go right to the gym and I meet the gym owner and I just told him the truth about where I'd come from. I was motivated to change, you know, and he saw that I was genuine and sincere. And he said, okay, you can train out of the gym. Like you're cool. TJ, he's good to work here. And TJ goes, cool. Tomorrow morning, be here at 5. I got a client for you. I'll introduce you and we'll start then. And then I went right to Nick's dad's house. I met him and he was fucking crazy. You know, like I didn't want to live with him. He was wild, but I had nowhere else to go. So $700 a month for a room, I gave him pretty much all my money. And now I had a room. And the last piece I needed was a car. So I called up my uncle's mechanic who had like a junkyard in Santa Barbara, and he had all these beat up cars and he was fixing them up. And most of them were like $1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And I didn't have any money. So he let me borrow this Honda Civic, and it was the worst car that he had. The whole rear end was smashed in. It was the worst car I've ever driven in my life. I couldn't even imagine you could drive it, you know? And the next morning, I parked it around the corner from the gym so no one would see me in it. But I showed up and I had my first client at 5 a.m. And like that was what happened, you know? And that's what it took to go from convicted felon, guy just getting out of prison, living in a trailer, to really going all in to pursue his dream. I knew that was a stepping stone. And 8 months later, I left that gym and I started my own fitness company. I had a good reputation in town. People knew I was back and I was training clients. Now I had clients all over the county and I'm going from gym to gym to gym. At this time, I'm with Jessica, my wife, you know, we're together, and I'm finally starting to make a little money and stuff. And my wife's pregnant. She's pregnant with Scarlett, like right away. And then COVID-19 shut all the gyms down and all my clients overnight. Like I lost all my clients and all my revenue, and I had a family to take care of now. And I remember I just had $1,200 to my name. And I'm like, dude, what the hell is going on? Like, I was just starting to get momentum. I was just starting to build myself up. Meanwhile, the whole time I knew that that was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do what I'm doing today. I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to use social media to reach more people because I want to help millions of people, not one person per hour for 8 hours a day. And in that moment, I said, you know what? I am truly all in on this next level. I know exactly what I have to do. I've been procrastinating on it. I've been a little comfortable. And that's when I said, I'm going to be an online coach and I'm going to share my message with the masses. And I started doing Facebook Lives every day, telling my story about being incarcerated and what I shared with you. And I wrote my book that became a bestseller during COVID. And that's when I really like took it to a next level and started Unstoppable and started building the brand that I have today. So it started with just me and making that commitment. Now I have 12 team members. You know, we're going from a 7 to a 9-figure business in the next 3 years. And just the impact and the reach is much more significant. But like that, all those pieces, like all those stepping stones had to take place to get here to this moment today.
Ah, you're just living out loud. Your belief in that it is a win or God is using it as a roadblock on purpose for you to learn a lesson to move yourself to the next level. I could dive into so many questions, Sean. We could be on this for hours. I love when you talked about as well, like the two things that are uncovering or covering up. I say we have to go digging for like our unique genius that's hit inside us, or purpose that and passion in life. And a lot of times people are stuck for those two reasons, that you're either numbing, and people often just think of numbing like that you have a problem, that you have an addiction. But numbing can be through all the other things you mentioned and in usage that seems normal. But you're just not dealing with it. And then we all have unresolved trauma. Like things it can not be on as significant level as you talked about, but we all have things and they're burying all of the treasures and gifts inside of us. And some people just leave that. They're not willing to go on that scavenger hunt and work through those things.
Yeah. And like I tell people this all the time, if you can't talk out loud about the stuff from the past that you're ashamed or you feel bad about, then you're not healed. Like I use social media as therapy, you know. And I did that in prison too. Like I was in this drug program where you had to get on stage and like share on a podium about your past and be accountable and stuff. And the first time I got up and spoke, I just was stumbling over my words and I was nervous and I hated the way that made me feel. I realized like I had a lot of work to do on myself. So number one, that's when I realized I wanted to be a speaker. I wanted to master that moment. I didn't want the fear to hold me back. And number two, it just gave me the opportunity to start sharing more vulnerably about my past and talking about things I'd never talked about. So I got to the point where like I would talk about seeing my mom overdose, or I would talk about my parents leaving me, or I'd talk about my dad never getting sober and breaking my heart 1,000 times. And like now I could talk about it without being affected. Like there's still emotion there, but I'm not ashamed and I don't feel embarrassed. And those are the two things like that will massively suppress your potential. And if you guys have ever studied the frequency chart, like human beings emit a frequency. Everybody does. Scientists can measure it. On the frequency chart, shame and guilt is the lowest emotional state that we can live in. Below that is death. It registers like a 20 on the frequency chart, and love and gratitude is a 700. The most powerful frequency we can emit, which is 10 times more potent than love and gratitude, is authenticity. That means when you just truly be yourself and you're healed and you're like, this is who the fuck I am. I'm bringing this person in the world. I'm not scared. Dude, that's when the law of attraction works in your favor. And I'm telling you, like the people that have come into my life and the opportunities, like I just been showing up every day and doing the work and being true to myself. And these things just happen. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of persistence that goes into it, but it's crazy when these things start happening. You go, oh my gosh, like this is like magic. Like what's taking place here? This is incredible, you know? And so, but if you can't rise above that shame and guilt and embarrassment, you're never going to elevate to those higher frequencies and you're never going to feel the way I'm describing. That's why working out's so important, because if you feel bad about who you are, stuff that you've done in the past or whatever took place, but every day you're investing in yourself, you're working out, you're doing things that are hard, but making you feel proud of who you are. That starts to elevate how you feel about yourself. You do that 1,000 days straight, like I did in prison, 2,000 days straight. Like there's no choice but your subconscious mind to recognize that person's effort, that person's consistency, and you start to feel proud of who you are. And if you could feel truly proud of who you are and love who you are, like you could be a better father, you could be a better business owner, you could be a better husband. Across the board, you perform better. And that's the thing that I want to stress the most to people, especially in business. Like, if you have a lot of money in your bank account and a good business, but you're a shitty husband, you're so unsuccessful. It's pathetic. If you have a big old belly and you're not there with your kids playing with them, but you have all this money and you're pouring all this time into business, you're so fucking unsuccessful. It's embarrassing. And I say it that way on purpose. I want to trigger people. I want them to recognize, like, I look at myself as I owe the world. I owe my family. I owe you guys, everybody on social media. I got to be the best version of myself and an example, because for so long I wasn't. And I was just like a parasite on society. You know what I mean? I was stealing shit. I was getting in trouble. I wasn't contributing. And God put me through those circumstances so that I could be enlightened. And now I could come home with this message. And I want nothing more than people just like me to go from hopeless, apathetic about life, not purpose driven, to living out your purpose. Because the way I describe it is like before jail, it was like I saw the world in black and white. And through that experience, God showed me colors and helped me to feel the emotions behind those colors. And it's like, wow, this is what life could be like, you know? And it's literally like I died and came back to life. And I feel like I downloaded all the information and secrets of the universe when I was in that cell. And now I just want to share them with the world, you know, like, and it's just passion and it's genuine because I was so dead and hopeless. And now I'm so alive and happy. And I want everyone to feel this way. And you got to earn this, though. You got to become this person. This is the thing. Like, you got to create someone that you naturally can feel this way on a fucking Tuesday at 10 a.m. You know, like, I'm not on drugs. I'm not just making this shit up. This is me every day. And it's because I'm continuously developing myself. I'm doing the same routines today that I did in prison, and things have just exceptionally got better for me. And here's the last thing I want to share too. It's like, it all comes down to gratitude. If you're in a bad place, you can find things to be grateful for. When you're on your journey, you got to hold on to that gratitude. When you're getting success, never lose sight of why you started. So for me, every morning I get up and it's all about cultivating that gratitude perspective and seeing the good in my life. But then you got to back it up with action. If you just say you're grateful, but your actions don't prove it, you don't really believe it inside. And so if you can keep that perspective alive every day, you can get through the hard parts of life. You can learn lessons through those times. And then you can just make the good days that much better because your energy is so much better going into those days.
That's very powerful. I mean, you got a lot of great stuff. We have to go back and listen to this like five times to catch it all. There's so much going on here. You know, talking about we have the choice to make when we face something bad, and look at what good can come out of it. But I love how genuine you are. That's really what attracted to me to you and Unstoppable, was seeing you show up every single day on social media, share it, be passionate about it, and live it every day with your family, with the company, with working out. And I don't know how I even found you on social media, but I did, and there was a reason for that. And you know, I asked you about Unstoppable. I was like, you know, I'm in the gym every day. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I felt I needed to do more, and I need that accountability. And that's what got me to join Unstoppable after getting on the phone with you. And it has tremendously changed my routine at the gym. And I think I'd say I was doing what I needed to do, but I wasn't doing it enough. And Unstoppable really tapped into that by holding me accountable and pushing me to do more and be better physically at the gym. But I want to talk about Unstoppable and, you know, who you're going after and why, because there is a need for people to learn more about Unstoppable as business owners, because we get so busy and so distracted with everything else in life that we fall short on taking care of ourselves. And I feel you add that element of accountability with the app, with the weekly calls, the group, and everything. And it should be a priority for business owners out there to be looking into this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the trades in general and blue collar workers are some of the hardest working people. Like I have so much admiration for all the trades, right? And people that are just working hard. That's like the backbone and foundation of our country, you know? And I never intended to get involved with the trades. Victor Rancor hired me 2 years ago, Lance Bachman, Tommy Mello. I started connecting with all these guys that are pretty influential in the space. And then all of a sudden I was introduced to all their audiences and I spoke at their events. And guys started coming up to me with challenges and problems. And they were the same things I resolved in my life. Addiction is a big one. Not taking care of your health, not having the best mindset and the best thoughts because you're stressed out and overwhelmed. And I started seeing like, wow, okay, these guys are suffering and they all have the same symptoms. They have families typically, they're running businesses, they want to be successful to take care of their family. But on that journey, they neglect their health, so they become a lesser version of themselves because they're not personally developing. Then they're actually bringing a compromised version home to their families, right? And so we put together a program that is systematic. And what I mean by that is like all business owners have P&Ls, they have KPIs for a reason. You guys want to be profitable, right? You don't want to go bankrupt. But nobody lives their personal life with that same type of oversight and those same metrics in place, right? So using the app, it's so cool because we could structure your daily blueprint and your weekly blueprint, and actually have a plan that makes sense for you. Like you could look at that plan and go, okay, given my responsibilities with my family and in my business, I can still do these things. And teaching people how to create a lifestyle around it, not just look at it as a chore or something to check off the list, but how can we incorporate all these pieces together? And that's where the mindset comes into place. That's why like my coaching, my calls, and all that stuff's so important because it takes a little while to like reprogram the brain and really look at yourself as that evolved version of who you want to become. Like old JC is not going to be the guy that puts all the pieces together and hits that next level. It's the new way of thinking. It's the new way of operating, right? So that takes a little time. But so number one, you need the right plan. You need that accountability and support to help reprogram your brain and way of thinking. And then the environment's so important. Like you said, seeing the messages from the other guys, the other people joining the calls, like now you're in an environment that's conducive to your growth and who you want to be. And those are the three most important things. It's the right plan with detail that you could follow and execute consistently, having accountability and support, because when shit gets tough and you're busy, you need people checking in on you. We all do. And then just your environment in general. Is your environment holding a higher standard for you or letting you settle and be that lesser version of yourself? And so the guys, once they get in there and they start building momentum and they realize it's not as hard to put all the pieces together as we thought, and I'm feeling better, I have more energy, I'm loving the way my body looks and feels, I'm eating better, my wife's noticing. Now it clicks for them. They're like, damn, I could do this. And for anyone listening, if you want to be a real leader, you have to be a leader across the board. Don't think just at work you could be a leader, then go home and be a lazy father. Or like if there's a guy on stage talking, he's talking about discipline, he's fat and out of shape. Like, bro, like, come on, what are you talking about? Like, I want to be the example across the board. If you watch me, I live my life like it's going to be broadcast on the evening news. And this is one of the hacks that I teach my guys. Like, if you're struggling to do the work and be in integrity with who you want to be, just imagine tonight at 8 p.m., the whole world, your family, your friends, everybody at work, they're going to see your day. They're going to show your day and how you lived on the evening news. Are you excited for that and you want people to watch? Are you scared and embarrassed, hoping there's a power outage and they change the channel, right? Like, and if you can live that way every day, man, that's the highest form of leadership. And if you truly care about your families and the people at work and you want to impact their lives at that level, that's how you have to start thinking.
Yeah. And feeling good about yourself, looking good, I mean, brings confidence, and people want that, and they see it too, because I am much more confident now going out than I was 3 or 4 years ago when I was just miserable, depressed, not working out. I, go through 17 t-shirts to put on to find one that made me feel okay about myself. And now I put shirts on Angela. Well, it's like, I got to get her off me real quick. It's like, damn, you look good in black today.
Yes, you do.
But
And that's
that's
the goal, right?
attracts the right
Like,
people. Yeah.
Yeah, look good, feel good. No one would argue with that. No one said I'd want to be overweight versus have abs, or I'd want to be broke versus being a millionaire. Like, you know what results you want. And the body language that we communicate, like they say communication's 90% body language. And usually there's this unconscious message that's transferred. Like when you walk into a room, you could tell who's doing something and who's not, just by the way they carry themselves. And what I tell people all the time, like your subconscious mind is keeping score. Every decision, everything you've done, everything you're proud of, everything you're not proud of, it's reflected in the way that you live your life, your demeanor, your energy, your tonality. And if you want the ultimate form of confidence and conviction, it's about those daily disciplines that you establish in your life. Like no one can take that from you.
Yeah.
And the thing about a physique, why it's so important, I haven't found anywhere you could do this yet, but like no one can go buy Arnold Schwarzenegger's physique and then put it on their frame. You could wear those shirts that show fake abs, but like you could fabricate a lot of things in life. Social media, cool. You can make some money and have a flashy car. But when you're butt ass naked in front of your significant other, like, is that the man you want to be? Or are you like, damn, let's turn out the lights, right? Like, this is the truth. And that comes down to who you want to be. We have to be honest with ourselves. We all want to look and feel our best. And it's such a catalyst for success in life. I haven't found one thing that even compares to fitness that has such widespread benefits. Mental health, confidence, discipline, like the way you show up for your family, the way that you can execute in business, your ability to learn new skills and lean into that uncomfort zone in personal growth and development. The gym is a tool for it all because you're going to war with yourself every day. You're pushing through something difficult. And at the other end of it, you're like, damn, I did it. And you get to do that every day. And it's like, man, the people that don't do that, I'm getting like 10 days of growth for every day that you're missing. You know what I mean? Like I'm 10xing you so fast because I'm compounding these days, you know? And so that's the best way to put it.
Sean, I feel like we barely scratched the surface on you, Unstoppable. You briefly touched upon your book, which we need to get a copy of and get that read. This blew. I mean, we're over time already, and I still have 5 more questions that won't even get through half of what I want to ask you.
So many.
But I appreciate all that you do. I really do. Like I said, you have changed my life in the gym. You have changed my motivation, how I perform every day. And you're doing it every day. And I love seeing when people ask information, then start signing up because you're about to change their lives. So for people who want to know more about you and Unstoppable, where do they go?
Yeah, you could shoot me a message on Facebook, Sean Michael Crane. SEAN is how I spell my name, or unstoppable365.com. That's our website. Check us out. We have a whole badass team of incredible people. So men or women, we didn't even get to talk about Dr. J, and like we have a doctor and a dietitian on staff now. So a lot of great people that are helping bring this vision to life, you know? So if you want to improve your health, your mindset, if you want to be in an environment that's going to hold you accountable because you know you can and want to be better, reach out to us. That's what we do.
Yeah. And it's extremely affordable. I mean, it's going to,
yeah. I mean, our monthly program, it's $297 a month. You know, when guys say I made it that price on purpose, so there's no money objections. When someone says they can't afford it, I'm like, dude, you don't really want results and you don't care about yourself. I could go wash windows in the parking lot and hustle up $297 today. And you have a whole month to do it. Right. So like the investment though, it gets your attention. I've invested over $250,000 in my personal development since coming home from prison, and business coaches and people, because I know that that's going to compel me to take that much more action in my life and hold me accountable. So that's another aspect. But yeah, I mean, JC's in there crushing it. Angela, maybe we'll get you in there soon with Whitney and Ashley. And anyone who's listening, hey, if you want to level up, you got to be around people that are killing it. Like even me, I know that I can operate at a high level, but when I get around world changers and those top 1%ers, I'm thinking bigger. I'm dreaming bigger. I'm taking more action. So we all got to apply that in our lives.
I love it, Sean. Well, thank you so much for taking time out today. Again, if you're listening or watching, go find Sean on social media. Go over to the Unstoppable page. It is truly life-changing. And I'm, personal statement, doing it every single day at the gym, 5:00 a.m. First thing I do is check into the gym. Second thing I do is open up the Unstoppable app, and I just get excited every single day. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you to your team. And we appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. We're just getting started.
All right. That's another episode of In the Foxhole. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for another episode next week.